Hey everybody, Texas Stroker here, Lance's Performance at LoneStarMopars.com. I hope you're having yourself a fantastic week. More importantly, a weekend, and if you're not, you're probably about to. So this video right here is one that goes back a little ways, but it's one that I had intended to release sort of like as a Happy New Year thing, and we totally didn't do that, evidenced by this being late March. But there's also a chance that I throw this down this weekend, and for good reason. Now, what we have going on, if we take a little trip back in time, we have this, and we have a spinner, and we've got this. So, this was our very first foray into, probably going to butcher it, but I think Nepros. Alright, Nepros, whatever you want to roll with, just know it is sort of like the over-the-top, excessively awesome division of KTC or Kyoto Tool Company, and you're kind of home free. So I believe it's Nepros, but like I said, could be butchering that still. This is sort of like the man candy selection of tools, right? Can you use them? Yes. Are they intended to be used? Yeah. Can a lot of people bring themselves to do it? No. The case in point right here, their wood-handled screwdriver. Now you've got two iterations. You sort of got a different staining for the slotted. This is obviously a number 2 Phillips, which we will use in our testing. Its striking cap, I could never bring myself to use it as a striking cap. As a screwdriver, yes. As a striking cap, no. Now, this right here we have used, that's probably, well, you can't really tell, it's like got a ridiculous luster still, but yes, this one actually gets used. And then right here, this, if you kind of think, that kind of looks weird, sitting there, it's like this mirror polish stuff, and that's not quite what's going on with the camera, buddy. This is very special. This is a blue ion plated ratchet, and I absolutely love it. This is probably the most unique ratchet I have ever used. This has been used. I was using it only on the Challenger late model, so the Mopar 10, and it was basically like simple stuff like engine bay dress up, catch can type things, you know, nothing like crazy nasty, but it was used, and I had to retire it because they do not make the blue ion plating. They sometimes do these really cool limited editions, and this was my way. I was like, well, hey, I want to try their ratchet. I just as well get the one that looks the best, right? So some people will not be a fan of this. You might just prefer the typical mirror polish chrome that you see on these two items. This is like the bee's knees for me personally. It looks way better in person than it does on the camera, if that's, you know, able to be believed. But it's just a situation where, oh man, I have one big regret with this, and the regret is simple, and it has nothing to do with the performance of the tool. It has to do with me kind of being cheap, I guess. At the time that they had this available, they also had like sets. You could get socket sets, right? And they had different drive sizes available. But you could get blue ion plated sockets, and I kick myself for not doing it. The few times I've been in contact with Nepros, I should say. We're probably going to butcher that. I'll go back and forth just out of habit. But a few times I've been back and forth, I have asked, I'm like, hey, you know, any chance that's going to happen? They're basically like, oh, no, sir, that was discontinued many years ago, but if we ever reproduce, we'll, you know, let you know. So it's probably not going to happen. It's kind of like a one-off production run. When it's gone type of a deal, and they're serious in that case. It's not one of those, like, limited edition that lasts forever, you know, type of a thing. But that is my regret, and I feel like I would want to set this aside still, but I like it well enough that I probably would have gotten a second or a different iteration and paired it with the sockets. But it's really nice. And on top of that, it's an amazing ratcheting mechanism. So we've kind of recapped where we've been with these, and now we're going into some new territory. So first thing first, I've got to awkwardly spin all the way around. This item is going to be part number ND 1PS-2. These were purchased direct from Nepros. This was purchased through DRPD. So that was nice. It saved me like a little headache of, I don't know, maybe some parts of this country have DHL that functions normal. No, it doesn't happen here. So it was a total crapshoot with that mess. But that aside, this little guy right here sets you back $23.10. And I'll just drop it down in front of you. And you're like, oh gosh, dude, another screwdriver. You dang right. What this is their other style. They have those like immaculately over-the-top wood handles, and then they have like a plastic resin type handle, right? Something like you'd be more accustomed to. This is obviously the stubby version for two reasons. Number one, we can still put this in our test pile, but number two, I do not believe that I've ever seen a standalone part number for the standard, plastic handled version of that. You can get a set, but you can't get just a standalone. So I kind of thought, well, this will give me a chance to feel it out before we commit to it. And that's what I'm doing right now while I'm talking to you. It feels good. It's almost like a leather-like texture. Now, it doesn't feel like leather. I'm not going to tell you that, but like the texture of it, if that makes any sense, the difference between the two. Probably not. You can see right here, you've got the size marking and indicator on the top. No number 2, number 1, number 3, anything like that, but it is easy to identify. This is a positive, right? This is a Phillips plus sign, cross, whatever you want to call it. X marks the spot. Go here to strip screws, whatever it may be. I also want to say the accent color for slotted might be green. It's been a while since I looked, but there she blows right here. You can see the Nepros branding. You got KTC Japan underneath that. A little difficult to see. When you zoom in, I think you can appreciate the detail a little bit better there. So right here you've got nice retention, but this grain structure, it almost looks like upholstery in a car, right? It's got a really good feel to it. Kind of recessed here in a very interesting fashion. It's like an overmold. It's almost like, man, I'm trying to think of what this would be. Something that I had back in the day. It's like from the late 80s, 90s. Something. That's oil, sorry. Friday was hydraulic oil day. Today was non-detergent stuff in the lathe. But anyway, I usually try to look clean when I do this stuff with new tools. This is just a pretty nice little stubby. It is going to be on the high end for a stubby. You can see there's a hex profile here. You're not going to be able to utilize that. I guess you might, but it's really, really recessed. It's more of like a design element deal, probably to keep it, from like spinning out under high torque. If you put your posi, a little stubby, in a high torque situation. But the tip itself looks just as immaculate as the one down there. I don't think you're going to have any differentiation between the plastic and the wood handles. So this, like I said, kind of like my foray into this, and we'll use it for testing. And I don't know if we'll pick up the set. Hopefully, maybe that's something I can ask Mike about, is if, hey, can we get a standalone for this sucker? Because I'd love to bring in that one. That's sort of like our control. We'll do stubbies too, but in theory they should perform the same, right? But right there, that's what I want, is the 4-inch or 100mm one. So pick that up again, $23.10. And whether you want to believe it or not, this is going to be our last item, but it's going to be totally worth it. You rest assured of that. Now, this one was a little pricier, and I'm not going to lie, as of right now, I haven't actively looked, but, this stuff, there's not exactly a ton of people that I'm aware of that are, bringing in. Koken kind of catching on more and more, but like Nepros is still kind of a little under the radar. People are aware of it, but they don't really pick it up, type of a thing too often. And I kind of think this update went totally under the radar. My intention was to make the video ASAP, and then I kind of like missed it, and I thought, well, you know what, I'm gonna wait for a sale. So this was purchased a little bit later, and I saved a good chunk of money. If you were to pay retail around the time that this thing came out, it would be $118. And you're thinking like, it's the successor to this, isn't it? And in many ways it is, but we'll set this sucker down. We'll go ahead and give you the part number, because it's very critically important that you have that. And this is again Nepros NBR390A. Okay, here's your packaging again, sort of like a high-end flagship smartphone type of a packaging, if you will. Right there, if you're thinking like, what's going on, that's the 90 plus sign, right? So are you ready for the moment of truth? I hope you are. We're going to open this sucker up, and yep, that's the extent they go to. Some people, like if you've got like the drawer, this might just stay like this. You'll set that off to the side, the lid and the sleeve. and you'll just have this on display. Some people, you know, you'll do this just so it's like, oh, it's a special ratchet, and you'll pick it up for certain jobs or whatever you deem necessary. Some people, this takes the place of like the Harbor Freight Gold ratchet, you know. I don't know that I'll use this just because it takes up a lot of space, but this one is actually going to get used. That one got used selectively on the Challenger. It's retired. It's too cool. They don't make them, like, I cannot replace that. I don't know how to blue ion plate anything. I deal with a lot of people you know, at work, but I don't know of anybody else blue ion plating anything. So this one right here, this is not a show pony. This one will actually be the go-to Nepros ratchet. So might even put it in the cart. You know, I think my Kokens, I guess I do have non-flex, but most of them are flex. So this guy right here could be my 3/8 fixed handle there. As you can see from the camera, it's just ridiculous chrome. Now, many of you on my channel are going to be used to like German stuff, and then Koken even, more of like a satin finish or matte finishes, right? This is pure Americana. This is what everyone in this country seems to want. This is like big rig in your face chrome, right? I'm not that guy, even with the cars, right? I'm not a fan. Certain color combinations and things, yes. But for the most part, I'm even like, I mean, my old Mopars, I do body color stuff. I black things out. Not a chrome guy, really. I carry that to the engine bay as well. I prefer as cast aluminum, polished aluminum, billet aluminum, you know, painted valve covers. Maybe, you know, like an accent strip type of a thing, but I'm not one of the chrome people. That said, I can appreciate it, and this is definitely something that you can appreciate, even if you despise it. Like, you could go to someone that particularly despises this and present it to them, and they have to admit, like, that's a really nice chrome job. And we're going to go ahead and get this guy. Ooh, wow, that is noticeable. What is noticeable, I'll tell you shortly. But just handling that guy, this is living up to the billing, which again, I'm not sure many people are aware of, which is why I might expedite this video, even though it's like almost 4 months after I intended to give it to you. But hey, yeah, you know, I do this for free, you know, enjoy it, and hopefully go spend some money on tools that you didn't know that you needed. You're welcome. So right here, I mean, it's obviously what's going on. This is a quick release. It's got Nepros. You got your selector switch. You got your handle, you got the ribbed ring here, you got the 90 plus kind of hidden. Yeah, the chrome again is just, good lord. Like, when they say mirror polished, they're not joking, you know. Man, I tell you, this is, I'm very excited about this. So if I get these backed out and hold them side by side, you're like, same thing, fool. It's just not blue. What are you so excited about? What if I told you this ratchet here in the mirror polished chrome has a complete redesign? There's nothing that was not changed performance-wise from this one. You're probably like, you're full of it. No, I'm not. And the most notable thing right here, this is that I've said it when I got it. You can go back to that video. This is a very heavy ratchet. I've got crud that's got like comfort grips and huge clunky heads that like feels lighter than this. This is a very, very heavy ratchet. This is not. Okay. I want to get this correct. I believe, I know the difference is 30 grams, which you think, it's not too bad, you know, because you probably don't use that unit of measurement very often. We're talking 275 grams versus 245 grams. So the OG right here, and if you've got any of you that have a Nepros ratchet that you purchased X years past, it's going to be just like this, aside from the blue ion plating, right? So 275 versus 245 grams, which is crazy. That is 10% lighter if you're doing the math. The way they did that is with the handle structure. The previous model right here, you're going to have a situation where you've got a small chamber and a large chamber, and then it sort of torpedoes into the shaft or the neck. This one has a chamber that offsets on each side of your hollow area, and again, it is very noticeable. Just even picking it up between two fingers on my non-dominant hand, you can tell that's lighter. There's no question about it. When I grabbed it right from its packaging, it's like, wow, that is super noticeable. You'll need this in your hand first, but whether you grab this and then touch that, either way, You can tell heavier and lighter, zero discrepancy on that front. And you're thinking like, okay, well, it's lighter. Well, what's the big deal? Do I need to rush out and replace mine? You definitely don't need to. But there are some more changes that you're probably going to find interesting. If you've been eyeballing these, and I hope you have, because you can't look at my beautiful mug behind the camera, right here, this is going to be a little bit more subtle, and you might not be able to pick up on it until we compare and contrast. This head going across is a situation where we've got 30 millimeters. If I were to measure from here to here, get the calipers out, 30 millimeters. Not bad, right? This head, it's maybe you can eyeball it. It is 26 millimeters. So they shave 4 millimeters. Think 2 millimeters per side, essentially. That's a big deal. And it's not just the side-to-side profile. It's the entire, you know, like teardrop, if you will, of the Ratchet. So the whole thing, all the way around, you've got that perimeter where you're shaving the 4 millimeters. Basically, it's one of those things, if you had like an outline or a shadow, you know, like Alfred Hitchcock walks in, but he's like gone on some like crazy like workout regimen or something crazy, you know, and he doesn't fill out the shadow anymore. That's what you have going on here. This is literally in the shadows behind the previous model. Now, if you're thinking like, okay, so does that really get me in that many more spaces? This one can't. And 30 grams, whatever, you know, I can live with the heavier Ratchet. Yep, that's, you probably can. And you can also live without this, but this is the big one. This is kind of the huge deal. You think Koken does some crazy stuff and tries to perfect things. KTC and Nepros is no different. This was, are you sitting down? 10 years in the making, okay? Can I validate that? Yeah, well, I guess we could go back and see when they hit the market. But 10 years in the making to do what you see here, the difference between these. It's a situation where what we have gone to is redesigned gear sets. Previously, it's still 90-tooth, obviously, but previously they had a 7-step dual pawl. Basically, that means, you know, like when we select this way, your pawl engages, and you typically have, you know, a forward and a reverse. The way they've designed it, it kind of cams over, and you engage both sides. Like, you know, this isn't just idle over here, it's actually working in conjunction with this pawl. Even though you're in reverse or you're in forward, you have the dual pawls working together, right? Cooperatively, if you will. So it's an 8-step dual pawl at this point in time. So they basically span that out. And it's a situation they totally trimmed out and got rid of anything that was unnecessary. Again, that's going to help with the weight savings. And in spite of the smaller size, the new system has an improved gear mesh that actually will withstand higher torque loads. The other thing, I'm not sure you can tell from here, you probably, sort of you can. Let me just stop her right there. If you pay attention to the selector switches, aside from them saying hi to each other, it's a deal where that was also redesigned. You can probably see like what looks like a pin here in the middle, and that one sort of got like a raised up section. Well, it was redesigned. And it's been integrated directly into the changer mechanism, which will allow further weight loss and smoother lever action. Matco could take notes from that. So, it's kind of like I said, gone under the radar. This was something I intended to like snag immediately, and I kind of think they sold out is what happened. And then it was just a deal where, you know, I was hitting up Mike at DRPD, and I was like, hey, you gonna get these? And he said, yep. And we wound up getting it on sale, which is awesome. And if I grab this in, the weight difference is so crazy. If you have this same iteration, obviously you've got like some of you get the tiny ones or the flex heads or something. If you have these side by side, it's super noticeable. What I want to do here, first thing first, is the Alfred Hitchcock deal. So I'm not staging this like I could push this up here, right, and be like, oh, well, it's not that small. Well, look down here, I'm an idiot, right? So if I do my best to line these up just side by side, which is a little hard because my, like right here, you can see that. There's blue visible. It doesn't just like mirror image each other. If I do this, there's also, it's a little harder to tell because one, I'm not holding it perfectly, and two, it's down as opposed to like tilted up at you. there's blue. If I try to center it a little bit better, which I kind of suck at, this is my bad thumb, so that's like surprisingly hurting really bad for some reason. I think there's a front coming. I'm like one of those old people, you know, with broken bones now, where it's like, oh, the storms are coming. If you had like one positive to take away from nearly losing your thumb, I guess you could consider that one. So if I can dial this in and not have my thumb twitch out on us, which is very difficult, there's just a little blue there. You can see it here and you can see it there, albeit subtly, right? So if I start down here where you can sort of see it, see how like right here, well, let me just, some of the dumbest things are what really hurt that thumb still for some reason. Super simple seeming things become really, really cumbersome. But if I just get it like this, you have no clue that I'm holding the other ratchet. You see Mr. Blue Ion plating here. You can see his quick release pin. You don't know that there is a mirror polished chrome until I do this. Okay, that's because of the subtle 2 millimeters all the way around this head. Now again, the weight I cannot stress enough. It is super evident. You could be terrible with these things. This is a noticeable enough differential for you to be like, oh yeah, hey, this is nice. I could get used to that. Now coming in here, it looks like the quick release is roughly the same size. Innovative 90 gear KTC Japan. Look at this. Oh, very subtle. This was not advertised. Or that was innovative 90 gear. This is superior 90 gear. So maybe that's like their V2 stamping, if you will. Right here, you can definitely tell another difference. And this one does have the 90, this one does not, just has the Nepros logo, because again, the head has gotten smaller. Like, that's where they lost the ability to put that. They've compacted it. So this sort of proof in the pudding. And if you sit here and think I'm just like pulling this out of thin air and I'm full of it, or I'm trying to sell tools or something, this is a really good angle where I'm zoomed in here, where you, the viewer, because I can see it in the camera, this is yay big and this is not, right? It's sort of like coming across and we're not there. So the 90, again, is a perfect example of that. Obviously, is superior versus innovative. The quick release feels good. Well, this is a little looser. This is pretty, like, I wouldn't say stiff, like you can't press it, but it's a very firm feel, almost like a starter button. And then this one's kind of more, well, I guess you'd say like broken in, but maybe it's just because of a redesign. Right here, this switch, you can see that center pin, and then it's sort of like recessed or hollowed out, right? That's a very, very positive retention. Sorry about that. It's like I said, sometimes it's the dumbest things that like my thumb has trouble with. I was lugging a huge box of rivets around and I was having trouble earlier, but I think it's honestly there's a cold front coming. So anyway, you'd think after all this time like that would not be an issue, but it is. That's still positive, but I think it might be a little easier to articulate. I'm gonna say it is. It's the same difference between like, this is a very firm feel and this is sort of like medium feel. This is like you've got to fight to switch, not obviously Matco fight where you can't do without pliers, but this is easily switched. This one takes just a little bit more effort in my opinion. So what'll be interesting is if any of you have this and you compare it to your previous Nepros model, do you notice the same difference between the quick release and the selector switch? That's kind of what I want to know there. Now again, look at that thickness of the head and this thickness of the head, but the difference here, which again, I know I've got gloves on, but I just sort of have to crab this, right? Like my fingers go from straight out to pincers to grab this guy. And that's just the subtle improvements that they've made there. There's all my wall art and everything there, even through the foggy fingerprinted chrome. You can see it super well. These are just both glorious ratchets to behold and look at. The other selling point right here, you can tell, I mean, that hasn't had a ton of sockets, but she's had some life up and down her. Like I said, I did use it only on the M10, so I didn't see much, and it was select jobs. But listen to this. Super fine, super tight as well. And what I mean by that is just the feel that you have Right here, brand new. We have never spun this one. I've had this ratchet out this entire time. Everything we've done with it, I have never turned the anvil. That takes a lot of restraint, doesn't it? So here we go. The acoustics in this are significant. What I mean by that is just the volume level, right? The decibels we're generating. And again, it could come down to, you know, who assembled it, what was going on the line, but listen to this guy. Volume-wise, this is like 1/4 and 3/8 Stavilla, which is just like whisper quiet, versus their 1/2 inch, which is just different. This is insanely quiet. This obviously puts out a little bit more volume there. That said, does that mean it's clunky? Is it going to fall apart like something that I recently did right here on the bench with a item from a store you can probably guess? It just literally failed right here on the bench in front of the camera. No, this feels super good. And what I'm going to do is use the ever-loving snot out of this guy. So it feels really good in hand. Again, some people, you know, you hate the bare metal stuff. Here, they get hot and they get cold. It's usually more of an issue that they're cold. That's where like a composite ratchet, which you would think, oh, that cheap piece of junk. Oh, there's a purpose for those, my friends. But this sucker, as long as I don't have it out on the driveway, right, in the glaring summer sun, I should be okay. It's like a seat belt, you know. You go grab that in like August afternoon when you leave work, and you're like, yeah. You just tattooed yourself, right? This is that type of a handle. But at the same time, if you got it down on cold concrete, that will transfer over. That said, I don't know. If there's one ratchet that I would not want a comfort grip on, it would be the Nepros. Why? That's just glorious to look at. That's why. So the only thing I could think that would make this better is like knurling, but I guess, you know, and that's way personal preference there. Many of you would disagree. This rubber retention ring down here, which they do on their sockets as well, that actually does provide a little bit of grip in your hand, but man, you're going to think I'm nuts. But like I said, I know most of you probably grabbed, you know, probably not the blue ion one, but you probably got a Nepros ratchet. And if it's the standard one and you grab this, the difference is instantly noticeable. So I absolutely love this thing. I think it's obviously we need to use it, but initial bench impression, it's love at first sight. So this will forever probably be, and just to kind of prove it to you, like, they just interchange like that, right? So it fits like a glove. This thing is just beautiful. This is too, but to me, and many of you would be like, this is the best looking ratchet you've got. Well, to me, that's like holy grail type of things. I don't care the brand really. Obviously, you know, like if it was Pittsburgh Pro, you know, it would be a functional ratchet, but it wouldn't, you know, like one, not 92, anything like that. But like if Pittsburgh cranked out this blue ion plating, I would love it. If Mac or Matco, if Matco made a blue anvil or blue ion plated ratchet, I'd probably buy it. I'd never get a locking flex head from the nuts ever, but like that's something I would actually go back. If SK under new ownership figures out how to do this blue ion plated, or they make like a green one that looks awesome, I would probably buy it. This is just, it's something to behold. And I'm a man that enjoys machines and tools, so it's justified in that manner. But dadgum, I don't know, like, why? You know, usually when something new comes out, like, it's just like piranhas, you know, everyone's like, oh, I'm gonna make a video. And I think this went under the radar. Now, like I said, I don't like religiously search for this or anything. I don't think anybody has hit on it, and I'm not sure that it's just because people may not be aware of the changes. They might not seem significant. I mean, you know, it's a decent chunk of money, but it's still a very, very, very competitive price, especially with the new Koken 72 tooth stuff. You know, one of the things I was disappointed by is like their price went way up. And not saying they're not worth it, but one of the beauties of Koken was like they were super good quality, and the price was like down here, you know, sort of like more close to mid-range than like top tier, you know. Maybe that'll neutralize itself as time passes and stock exists, or maybe they're just like covering costs. They hadn't updated prices based on the world recently. But for the price of the 118 is standard. That was before the discount on the sales. So I would say it's well worth it. This is something you can get rebuild kits for. The faceplate is going to be screwed, as you can see there. For some of you, that might be like an FOD issue. Just got timed out there. But if this is an issue for you and you're like, oh, I can't use that at work, you know, get one and use it at home type of a deal. If you have never had a Nepros ratchet, I honestly, this is on me, I didn't like check stock places and kind of see what's old and what's new, but this is a new redesign, and that's the part number. That's why I told you that was critical. Where did she go? It's right here on the lid, which this lid has foam as well, by the way, but NBR390A. I'll go ahead and I will link this back to DRPD. Do I make a dime off of that? Of course not. I do it solely for your convenience. I can also link it to KTC if I remember, or Nepros' site. But if you have, maybe like, you know, you got quarter or you got, you know, flex head first and you want to get a fixed handle, go this route. It is, the weight savings is the most noticeable. The slimmer profile will be appreciated. The selector switch, it's kind of like in the quick release, that's all moot stuff. They don't even advertise the quick release. That's my observation personally. But you'll note that right there, it is color oriented with the ratchet. This is just, again, over the top. The quality of the presentation, and of course the tool itself. So do I have any regrets about purchasing that? I sure as heck don't. And like I said though, this one will be used extensively. If this gets chipped, if it gets flaked, if it gets to the point where it's like I need a rebuild kit, or I like lose it, you know, that's probably something I will want to replace. I'll wait for a sale. But this one's not going to be a garage queen. This one's going to actually be used all the time. Granted, I have a ton of crud that I use all the time, so I cycle them, you know. Again, coming from like 3 Craftsman ratchets, it's a deal where I come out, I've got something to do. I get to pick what ratchet I use. I find great enjoyment in that. It doesn't really benefit anyone else, but I sit there and like, kind of feeling like Stavilla today. And, you know, I waste 2 minutes of my life making a choice, and then I go to work. And the cool thing about being at home is you can do that. At work, I don't have that luxury, so you just kind of have to grab and go. But here, there will be days I come out and it's like, I think I'm going to use the Nepros. So, and that's exactly what we will do. So, with that said, were you aware of the changes, the upgrade? Pretty significant upgrade. Like I said, their words, not mine, 10 years in the making, which I could believe that. It's probably, if we went back and see when they launched, it would probably be about right. Beautiful to look at, beautiful to work with, best of both combinations there. A lot of people buy a ton of these and don't use any of them, which doesn't make any sense to me. But, you know, if you collector side, I get it. But for everyone else, like, use them. Like, that's what they're made for, you know. If you want to keep, if you get this, you're like, oh, you know, I can't use it. It's too pretty. Buy another one, or like save up and get one down the road, or start using that one with the intention that, hey, if I achieve this or accomplish that in life or at work or whatever, I'm going to go buy one that's just going to sit in the toolbox and, you know, be like a conversation piece and whatever, you know. But use the freaking ratchet, man. You know, so I say that, I might sound like a hypocrite. I promise this guy was used, but then I started feeling really bad because I'm like, I can't replace that. And this I could do crazy things to, and I can replace it. Who knows, if it lasts long enough, they might have the 3rd iteration, you know, and I can replace it with that, something better. But this guy is, I'm not gonna lie, I'll be straight up honest with you, at this point in time, it is dedicated for show purposes. It's just super awesome. Like I said, it's the bee's knees. If I could get those made by other places, if other people made them, I would probably buy them, because to me, that is just aesthetic perfection. Blue ion, it's kind of like it's not like the anodized blue or even like this Ghidorah pin. I mean, it's kind of got a navy. It's more navy, you know, than it is like Mopar blue or anything. It's just, dang, it looks good. So I open that drawer up and I'm like, oh. So the other ratchet that I do not use is a Koken that has the clear faceplate. Why? I'm a dork and I find that very interesting. So everything else gets used, aside from, of course, the locking feature on the Matco, because that doesn't function. But I do use the ratchet from time to time, and I probably just need to just slide that switch over with a pair of pliers and just have it kind of flop around. But yeah, this we'll use it. Ram Revival, stuff I'll have going here and release eventually on the cars. You might see it there. And it's going to be hard to miss because it'll be the thing that like blinds you. You know, if I have lights on, it'll be like, what's that glow? You're like, oh, it was his Ratchet. But yeah, super just ridiculously over the top nice Ratchet. And again, the big thing is just the redesign on it. So if you had wanted to get into the Nepros line and you hadn't done it, again, make sure you go that part number. Make sure you kind of check and, you know, look at stock, see if you're getting old or new type of a thing. And kind of take it from there. But like I said, if you know if I can land the standard version of that Stubby, let me know. If you have a part number or a source for it, I'd love to bring that thing in to have for testing when we get to it. But yeah, just a Stubby and just this guy. But man, like I said, pretty sweet little haul there. And this crazy thing, this has been sitting in my floor since like end of November, I think. So hey, like I said, I intended to have it out for you for New Year's, and it just didn't happen. But with that said, I don't know if someone was knocking on my door or the wind got up, but I guess I'll go check on that. So with that said, I do hope you enjoyed. If you had a bad week, if you weren't having the best weekend, I hope this ratcheted things up for you. Paused for applause there. You're welcome. But, once again, I grabbed both of these from DRPD on a discount. Again, if you're patient and you wait, it may not be in stock. I can't recall if you can back order stuff or not, but I mean, he's got great prices to begin with, and it's one of those things, if you can wait for a sale and catch it, it's even better. So beautiful Ratchet, beautiful redesign. Cannot wait to use that thing. In fact, I might might put this bandsaw back together with it once I get it wrapped up. Can't say what I'm doing because that would totally ruin other videos, but like I said, she's going to be used, and I'm going to enjoy it. So on that front, again, hope you have yourself a fantastic weekend. If you enjoyed the video, if you like several of the videos, encourage you to subscribe, leave a like, leave a comment, let me know your thoughts on this. If it's too pretty to use, if you're like, redesign, I had no idea, whatever you want to talk about, feel free to do that. LoneStarMopars.com is the website. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all three at Lone Star Mopars. And with that said, many thanks to KTC and Nepros for making ridiculously over-the-top tools that some crazy guy in Texas can purchase, even though he doesn't really need them, to use them on 60s and 70s muscle cars. So we'll leave it at that, and I hope you have a fantastic weekend. As always, I hope to catch you back here for more action from the shop.